everybody. Dr. Susan Kaye here with Dr. Patti Britton, and we've been chatting up because we could spend a couple hours on here with y'all, but we needed to make sure we condense it and get the really important juice that Patti brings us around her work and how she got into sex coaching. That's now everybody knows that term. Back in the early 90s, right? You wrote the book, like sex coaching, what's that? So Patti's in LA and she has her business though all over the world.
That's
so
right.
She's going to tell us how she got started, a little bit in the middle, and I'm asking questions. I'm allowed to ask questions. And then she'll tell you how you can find out more if you're interested in what it take to be a sex coach.
Oh, I love that idea. Well, it's so thrilling to be with you, my darling Dr. Susan Kaye. We're not only really close friends, for those of you who are watching, but we're good colleagues. And that's so important because we're living in an era where there aren't a lot of people who are well trained, who are credentialed, who are qualified to really dive deep into what people need around their sexual roadblocks. And you bring the neck down elements in the kind of work that you've always done. You've always been that an anchor for body-based approaches to healing our sexual wounds, our sexual stories sometimes. And I'm the talk only, I'm the neck up girl who brings that training and that perspective of the whole person. I really think you and I share that vision of looking at every single person as a whole entity. And then in my model that I train my students and trainees in, I actually differentiate the 5 components of the sexual self. And so maybe we'll have a little bit of time to talk about that. But it's just so fun to be with you here. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us how we got started. I know how I found you was your book. Right?
Exactly.
Sex
The
coaching.
art of sex coaching, expanding your practice, which has become, here's this shocking thing. It's still the only book that's been written on sex coaching. And I started this phenomenon, I'll call it, but I am the mother of sex coaching. And I started this as its own profession because I was so disenchanted having finished my doctoral training at the Institute in San Francisco, where we also have this bond, this wonderful sister bond. We're both graduates of the Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality, and both of us have such a beloved place in our hearts for the legacy of the Institute, which closed a few years ago. And what's so important is that when I went through my PhD training and I had the privilege of being in an honors achievement program. I don't even know if you know that, but I elected not to take it and instead to go through the courses as much as I could. And at that same time that I was working on my doctorate and my dissertation for the PhD, I was sort of, how should I say it, courted to move to New York City and become the associate director or the deputy director for SICUS, which was such an incredible opportunity for me. And I've had just such a great career. It's always been this really remarkable journey that I've had as a sexologist and with a foundation of sexuality education, and always coming at it from a holistic perspective and bringing what happened in 1990. And this is really what the sea change was all about and why you're holding the book. What happened is I was a devotee of Thomas Leonard, who was the founder of Coach University.
Okay.
Pioneer. He's the guy who took it out of the athletic realm, out of the tennis court or out of the, high school basketball gym, and said, there's this new thing called personal or professional. There were many derivations even early on, but professional or life coaching. And so I was so blessed. One of my first coaches was Cheryl Richardson, who then became Oprah's life coach, who I follow even today as such a luminary, right? And so I was birthed in this movement of coaching as the way to help people grow and become who they really want to be. It's this up-leveling of our goals and vision. And I was a sexologist with all this training from the PhD program and a whole career in sexuality issues. And lo and behold, I was asked to do a presentation one day. You may not even know this story. And I said, You want me to do a presentation on how I work? And I call it sex coaching. I'm supposed to train a group of people? Let me think about that. And so out
Oh,
of that
wow.
emerged not just this marriage of the what of sexology and the how of
Yeah.
personalized coaching, but also the MEBS model. And that became the framework and remains. You have a visitor to your left.
Oh, yes.
Your assistant is with you now. I'm really happy to
Yes.
see that. Mine is in the other room. And I love it.
Yeah,
And so the MEVS model was really my way of articulating the 5 parts of the sexual self and where we get stuck. We get stuck in the mind, in the emotions, in the body, or in body image, or predominantly in behaviors. But then I added in what to me makes it holistic and makes it so powerful: energy and spirit. And so I've defined those 5 realms and where we as sexologists and sex coaches can help the client become unblocked and become in flow within oneself and then between people. So that's how it all began. And I got asked to write the book in 2000, I think it was 4, and sat and cranked it. I had just finished The Complete Idiot's Guide to Sensual Massage. I was doing a lot of television at that time, living in LA. I was just, really, really busy with clients and all my projects. And then Norton comes to me and says, "Would you be willing to write a book on sex coaching? We heard about you from the guy who wrote the book on life coaching." And I went, "Well, yeah, what do you need?" "Well, could you draft a short proposal?" And they had already made up their mind. So that book still resides as a print book through W.W. Norton and Company, as well as many, many other platforms. And that's one of the textbooks for the training program at Sex Coach U, which is the evolution of having written the book. In 2010, my beloved partner, Dr. Robert Dunlap, he's in heaven now, and you knew him, he said to me, "Hey, do you want to bring the book alive and start training people on it?" And that's how Sex Coach
Wow.
U got born.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So
it's
it's like
all
you
history now.
have, I mean, it's just such divine intervention when you were asked or led or that it unfolded. And I see you as such a dynamo. I thought you were leading the whole way. I'm doing this, I'm taking this, I'm running with this thing that I believe in.
Yeah.
And here you had all this support and encouragement, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just so great when we're on the path we were meant to be on.
And
The
I want to
exact
say to
right
people,
people.
people who are watching who really are looking for a career shift or looking at us and saying, "I want to be like them when I grow up," which I hope you are, because we need people to come into this field of human sexuality in all of its dimensions. But there's something so remarkable about the idea that in some of the spiritual teachings, there's something called treatment and spiritual mind treatment, and in um, certain other practices, it's like, okay, set the intention, the positive mindset, but it's treat and move your feet. And so there's a lot of hard work behind that drive and momentum. It doesn't just happen. And for people looking for that kind of support, both you and I provide that. And actually at Sex Coach U, we have an entire business program as part of our training to be a sex coach, because we see how important that is.
Right, right. I know that you do, and I've sent several people over
Yeah.
Sex Coach You, and that's on the selfish side because then they come back and work with me.
I know,
I get
because,
them
you
here
know,
to work with me.
what
Yeah.
I like to say is that sex is layered, complex, and deep. And our sexuality is layered, complex, and deep. And
Mhm.
my mission in the world is to train as many competent professionals that I can through my online university and my live trainings, which, remember live, being in the room with real people?
Yeah, remember that?
Remember old times pre-COVID? And that'll come back, because that's my favorite, is to be in the room with people and to be in experiential learning. But really, what's so important is that I want people to be well trained, because when you crack open a human being and you get to the core of the most intimate part of themselves, their sexuality, You have to be competent and skilled to know how to assist them in their healing journey. And you're a representative of that, from that neck down perspective and the integration of neck up and neck down. And I'm out there getting all the neck up people well oiled so they can then be part of the team to work with your people, which is what's so wonderful, because the body is a really important component of the healing journey.
Absolutely. And we're learning that now inside of integrative medicine, who is finally saying, can you believe this? Hey, maybe you should exercise, or maybe you should eat better, or, maybe you should think good thoughts instead of negative thoughts. I mean, there's actually this platform now that we are able to kind of latch ourselves onto, because we're saying integrative therapy now is the next step, which you and I have been doing with your coaching is the therapy, but you don't do the therapy by the guidelines in a book. Oh, you have this diagnosis, so that means you do this, this, and this. And so it kind of puts people in a box that is not serving our entire total body wellness.
Absolutely. And I want to be clear for people who are watching us or listening that coaching is not therapy. And that's a very important distinction to make, because coaches are not mental health professionals. We're not trained as such. We don't do the work. We're not treating clinical depression or high anxiety or personality disorders. In fact, we don't pathologize. We depathologize. We come from an empowerment-based, sex-positive perspective. And so our job is really to help people sort out what's in the way of getting to where you want to be, and what tools and techniques and strategies and methods can we impose or invite you to consider, so that you can then clear those and you can actually experience fulfillment. I like to call it sexual self-realization. I think that's the path that everyone is actually on. And I think that coaching, the reason I chose to go the direction of coaching and not therapy, I could have easily gone and be trained as a therapist. It was like, no way do I want to sit and listen to people's repeated stories of their depressive aspects or their wounding or the shame, toxic shame, one of the big causes of roadblocks when it comes to our sexual story and happiness. But I wanted to work from a positive, upbeat perspective. And so that's what I love about coaching. It's about elevating. It's about, sometimes it's literally about elevating, as you know. It comes to the penis owners. But what I mean is that it's about lifting them up. And in coaching, we have these expressions, these tenets, like hold the bar high, expect more for your client than your client does. And that energy is so different from therapy. Some therapy is now moving toward coaching. And actually, interestingly enough, at Sex Coach U, we're getting more psychotherapists and mental health counselors and practitioners who are like, I don't want to do therapy anymore. Right. I've got the license, I've got the practice. I want to work from a coaching perspective because the energy is so positive and I want to go there with my clients. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's a movement happening today.
It's really an awakening, Patti, because we saw this back in the 80s and 90s, that there was something missing when you just sit across the desk and talk for 10 years about what happened to you as a child, and then incorporating the you with you as the main focus of what we're working on. Like, how is your relationship with you? Yeah. You can't give away and share what you don't have for yourself.
Oh, I love
and
that.
So it's building those steps and building a toolbox is what I feel we do.
And also bringing the body in. And I think that so many mental health practitioners are so afraid of working with someone who works at the somatic level. And what I love about us as clinical sexologists and sex coaches, which are synonymous in my training program, because I train people to become clinical sexologists. What I love is that we can integrate the body into the conversation. Not all sex coaches work with body-based approaches, but we are trained and comfortable. We embrace that because the whole person has to show up in order to become fulfilled and healed. I think healing means becoming whole. And you and I know, because I've worked as a part of the triadic model with a surrogate partner therapist approach sometimes. I'm the head up, I'm the talker, and the toucher is somebody else. I've seen a revolution happen in a weekend with a person who was so traumatized, so stuck, so dis, disengaged from their own sexual potential. And in 2.5 days, restored, if not elevated to a place that they've never been before.
Yeah.
And yet, some of those same people have been in therapy 10 to 20 years, once a week. Sorry to say it. I'm not anti-therapy. I'm anti not being qualified to really serve the needs of clients when it comes to their sexuality.
And it is a wraparound conversation that we need to have, because not any one person, any one therapist, even any one of us has all the keys and tools and answers, because everyone that walks in is different. I call them each, their own snowflake or
Snowflake. Right.
I know, I'm not
Careful.
the same word, but plain damn you.
I say sexual fingerprint.
There you go. But figuring out who they are and
Exactly.
what works for them,
Exactly.
and giving them the freedom to explore that. And I think what's happening, as you're seeing it, with more the therapist moving over towards coaching and the freedom of it, is because this is the future. We are not going away.
No.
Embodiment therapy is not going away. Massage therapists are not going to close their doors. All the myriad of I've never dreamed I would hear so many different disciplines inside the somatic arts community. When I started, it was massage, and we were working our way out of the massage parlor, truthfully.
Yes,
And
which
now,
is also part of the narrative today of deconstructing language, depathologizing. And when you just triggered something in me. I don't mean I'm triggered, but you stimulated a thought, which is so important for everybody watching. We have to be very cautious, but also stake a claim for authenticity in this world. And when you say massage parlor, we've just experienced and witnessed murders because of hate crimes against Asians and hate crimes against women perceived as sex workers. And so, that term is so charged right now, massage parlors. And yet, if we lived in a free society where we weren't steeped in shame and false moralism, we would have access to care, to healing care through sexual touch from a paid professional. This is the problem. We live in this very strange time in our society. And I'm really speaking about society within the United States. I know that we're on the internet, so obviously we're talking to people around the world. But there are cultures that are more repressed than America, and then there are some that are less. And so this whole notion, part of the reason that I train people and that I'm so passionate about it, I want people to be well schooled in how to hold that line, how to uphold freedom of speech, freedom of sexual expression, freedom to be who you really are, but also being mindful of the boundaries and the landmines that are surrounding us today, whether it's what pronoun you use, whether it's what body you're talking about, etc., with the justice warriors that are out today. Thank God for them. But it's a difficult time to really move through the world as someone who is an advocate for sexual wellness. And that's really the foundation of the work that you and I do. We're really promoting sexual wellness from a full holistic perspective. And I think it's just glorious.
Yeah, emotional, mental, physical, and dare I say spiritual.
Spiritual. Our spirit is part of who we are, like it or not.
It's the life force. It's our basic life force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call it the little blue flame way deep down inside us. That's our true sexual identity. And sometimes that flame feels as though it's gone out with low or no desire. And sometimes that flame is on fire, right? Or it's wonky, it's distorted somehow. But that's the essence of self. And that's a lot of my work. And it's great that we're having this conversation today, because I feel myself shifting. I go through a lot of kind of like tectonic shifts as a practitioner, as a clinician, as an educator, and as a writer and an artist. And part of what's happening is I'm feeling a call and a pull back to more of my spiritual roots, more holism, more kind of the integration of some of the trainings I've been taking in shamanic understanding. And so there's all this new energy bubbling up, and it's spring, and the lambs are jumping, and the daffodils are blooming, and it's all sexy.
Yeah, it feels like there's some kind of world order coming back into place. I
There
don't know how
is.
long it'll last, but
There is, because we're also looking toward the end of a pandemic, the end of a year of suppression, of literal suppression and isolation and deprivation and terror. We're living in an era where we have a disease that's a terrorist, among other terrorists. And there's a sense of, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to come out of this. And what's going to happen? What's life going to be like? And so what's going to happen in part is that people are going to explode sexually, and they may not know what to do with that. That's when you need a sex coach, or one of your people who have been properly trained, or you or me, although I don't take new clients right now unless they're referred by their psychotherapist.
Well, I know we agreed on a time, and I want to honor your time. We could go on all afternoon.
We could.
We start talking about some of our trips together, and our favorite guy in the whole world that still lives in New Mexico without us. But
yes, he does. I'm going to mail him a bag of oats right now.
Okay, we won't go any further with that one.
So that's it. Enough. TMI, people.
TMI. So, Patti, how do they reach you? People that want to be trained as sex coaches, or people who want to come to your folks all over the world as clients?
Well, there are two ways to either pursue a career in sex coaching and or find a competent and well-trained sex coach. And one is through Sex Coach U, that's letteru.com, sexcoachu.com. That's the home of Sex Coach University, where we train you exclusively online. And right now we're not even offering SAR in live time. We're offering that virtually. So it's 100% online towards certification. And that's 21 courses in the core curriculum, and a baker's dozen, 13 in the business program. So check it out, get on the waiting list. We only open enrollment 2 or 3 times a year, and we're always sold out after about 4 days. And the other is, if you're interested in finding a sex coach, because I'm not available, just saying, then go to World Association of Sex Coaches.org. That's the World Association of Sex Coaches.org. That's got a world directory. So there are like 120 people that have been trained and qualified and certified who can do this work. And most of us are now working exclusively on a virtual platform like Zoom, because the world still really hasn't opened up. But if you were looking for someone near you, there may be somebody. So those are the two resources. And my website, drpattibritton.com. Rebranding my website, from my lips to goddess's ears, may it be finished in the next heartbeat. And a cool thing that I'm working on is I actually am my friends and I are making a documentary of my life, and showing all of the kind of the sea changes of topics that I've spoken on in the media. So it's very media driven. I've been on something like 70 television shows, and or 200, a lot. And so we're putting it together in a movie, and that's in the making, and the trailer will be on the new webpage. So take a look at it. It's so fun.
That's so awesome. That's the first I'm hearing this too.
I know. Newsflash. Woo, woo.
Congratulations. A testimony to your legacy.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been here a long time, you and I, and you reach a certain point or pinnacle in your life and your career, and you want to capture that. You want to document that. So it's time.
All right. Well, thank you again. Anybody else have any questions? You can also contact me, Dr. Susan Kaye. That's my main website, or the integrative mind body therapies.com to learn more about our courses and trainings.
Perfect. It was such fun being with you today, and I hope everybody is getting great value out of this information, and stick with her because she's one of the best in the world.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Patti. Take
Bye,
care.
Dr. Susan. Bye, sweetheart.
Okay, let me stop the